So today we're talking about Donald Trump and Barack Obama. Which one of these really popular presidents made more money? So I was wondering who made more money over the course of their presidency and also after their presidential term. So I went ahead and looked it up, and it's pretty interesting. One of them entered into the White House with basically nothing, but he did leave with tens of millions of dollars. And the other one, as you probably know, entered as a billionaire and left with even more billions. But when you look into where the money came from, the story just gets even more interesting. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first question is, how much are each of these presidents worth today? So a lot of their deals are done privately with private companies, so it's not readily available public, but a lot of analysts, including Forbes, puts Donald Trump at $6.5 billion as of 2026. In fact, that puts him ahead of every US president that's ever been by a long shot. Now, if we look at Barack Obama, the ex-president, a lot of analysts put his net worth at about $85 to $95 million. So that's actually a lot of money for somebody in the public service sector, especially since he was a career politician before he came into all of these riches. And even though it's a lot of money, it's really a small amount in comparison to Donald Trump in the billions of dollars. I mean, if you think about that, $1 billion is 1,000 million. Barack Obama's worth between $85 and $90 million. So where do these two guys start off financially in their lives? Now, this contract is probably as drastic as it can get. It's well known and well documented that Donald J. Trump was born into a wealthy family. In fact, through the course of his relation with his father, supposedly he was provided up to $400 million. Now that's over time, so a loan, and then he paid it back, a loan, and then paid it back, or a gift from his father. So he did enter into the business world with a huge financial backing and a well-connected family. Now, if we look at Barack Obama, he grew up in a pretty modest household. In fact, his mother was a single mother for a large portion of his childhood, and supposedly Barack Obama worked his way through school, including Harvard Law School. And a lot of that was paid through student loans and various scholarships. Now, before he was a famous president, he was a community organizer in Chicago, Illinois. He also taught constitutional law at the University of Chicago. And then afterwards, he did serve with the Illinois State Senate. So during that time, a lot of his income was coming from his teaching job and then also book royalties. But it really wasn't a lot of money to speak of. So as you can see, the starting point for these two presidents is a huge contrast right from the beginning. One started with hundreds of millions of dollars in inheritance and various loans from his family, and the other one started with basically nothing. So this question comes up a lot. How did Barack Obama build up so much wealth? So for me, this is actually pretty impressive when you look at all of the details. So obviously when Barack Obama was a president, he took the yearly salary, which in his presidency was about $400,000 per year. So over the span of his two-term presidency, he earned about $3.2 million from his presidential salary. But that's not really where his wealth came from. The real money came after he left office. So in 2017, after he left his presidency, supposedly him and Michelle signed a book deal that was worth about $65 million with Penguin Random House, which is a massive contract. And if we look at his memoir, Promised Land, it sold about 7.6 million copies worldwide. So with those numbers, it became one of the top selling political memoirs of all time. Also, allegedly, the Obama signed a $50 million contract with Netflix through their production company, Higher Ground Productions. Also, because Barack Obama was such a popular president, he supposedly earned upwards of $20 million after he left his presidency just in speaking gigs. So the money that he gained after his presidency was acquired through writing, speaking, and media. So he didn't have any inherited money, no crypto, no business empire handed to him. So that's pretty impressive that he built up that much of a net worth. So another question that comes up is about Donald Trump. How did he increase his net worth so dramatically through his second presidency? So this number is genuinely staggering. Forbes had estimated his net worth in 2024 to be $2.4 billion. However, that has been revised as of 2026. They estimate his net worth to be $6.2 billion. So that's close to $4 billion in growth in a matter of 2 years. A lot of people say that a lot of that growth in his businesses was tied directly to his political career as the president of the United States. So where did that money come from? A lot of it came from Trump Media and Technology Group. That is the parent company of Truth Social. And Truth Social was estimated to be worth about $2 billion at the end of 2025. And this is after taking a loss of $401 million in 2024. In fact, that company barely generates any revenue, but the stock price remains high because investors have a lot of faith that Trump's political influence will increase the share price. Also, Donald Trump holds unrealized crypto gains, which includes governance tokens, his meme coin, which holds a paper value of about $570 million. Also, his controlling share of Trump Media contributes another $1.2 billion worth of paper net worth. So his net worth nearly tripled in the matter of 2 years. years, not through traditional business success, but through sheer political brand power. So whose wealth is more stable and reliable, Barack Obama or Donald Trump? So this is a pretty important question through this comparison. We can look at Barack Obama's $85 million is built on pretty solid foundation. He has book royalties coming in every year. Netflix and Higher Ground Productions create ongoing production revenue. Barack Obama continues to get large speaking fees. He has real estate holdings in Chicago, in Hawaii, Washington, D.C., and Martha's Vineyard, and all of those properties have steadily appreciated. So his wealth is pretty modest in comparison to a billionaire, but it is clean, stable, and it's not really dependent on one volatile asset. Now, if we look at Donald Trump, he has a supposed net worth of $6.5 billion, but it is much more volatile. And actually, a lot of critics say that the stock price for Trump media is largely speculative on the political power of Donald Trump. Also, his crypto holdings do fluctuate dramatically with the market. And Forbes says that Trump holds $1.1 billion in liabilities and $8.4 billion in assets, but only $1.1 billion of that is liquid. So as you can see, most of his financial net worth is on paper and could shrink drastically if his political influence decreases. So which one of these guys monetized their presidency better, Donald Trump or Barack Obama? So this is pretty fascinating because both of these guys really converted their time in the White House into financial gain. If we look at Barack Obama, his post-presidential monetization was straightforward. Books, Netflix, speaking gigs, podcasts. It turned his presidential platform into basically a media company. In fact, a media empire that's worth tens of millions of dollars. He's actually the first president that built a media production company post-presidency, and it actually turned out to be pretty successful. Now, if we look at Donald Trump, his monetization is in a different realm. In fact, the New Yorker magazine estimated that the Donald Trump family has gained about $4 billion since the inauguration of his second presidency. Also, supposedly Donald Trump has earned more than $10 million after his inauguration by selling books, Bibles, fragrances, watches, guitars, and sneakers, all licensed under his name while he's still a sitting president. So if we're looking at pure monetization of being the president of the United States, Donald Trump definitely wins by a long shot. So whether or not that monetization was legal and appropriate, a lot of voters are going to be debating that for decades to come. So which one of these two presidents are better writers and how much have they made from their books? So this is a pretty fun comparison because both of these presidents are successful authors and book sales have made a lot of money for the both of them. So if we look at Barack Obama, supposedly he's made about $15 million in book royalties, and that's between 2009 and 2017. And then if we look at his book deal in 2017 with Random House Penguin, that deal alone was supposedly worth about $65 million. So you can see that Obama is a talented writer and earns book income through his craft and storytelling. Now, if we look at Donald Trump, he's actually written numerous books as well. The most famous of those is The Art of the Deal, and it ended up being a bestseller in 1987. And even to this day, it's known as one of the best business books ever written. So his book income has been significant over the years, although a lot of analysts say that it's not much in comparison to Barack Obama's book income from royalties. So which one of these two rich guys gives more money to charity? So both of these guys have made a lot of different charitable commitments in different ways over the years. So supposedly Barack Obama donated $25 million to charity in 2019 alone. The majority of that went to the Obama Foundation. The Obama Foundation's assets, including its endowment fund and real estate, are estimated to be worth about $500 million. So his charitable giving in comparison to his personal net worth is pretty high. Now, if we look at Donald Trump, his charitable giving is a little bit more complicated. Firstly, his Donald Trump Foundation was shut down by New York State in 2019 after an investigation found that supposedly the funds were not being used properly. A lot of analysts say that his charitable giving in comparison to his net worth is questionable. However, over the years, he has given significant amounts of money, but the record is less clear than Barack Obama over the years. So I would say that Barack Obama wins on that particular category, especially in the amount that he's given in comparison to his net worth. So what does Donald Trump excel at more than Barack Obama when it comes to finances? I would say the best thing that Donald Trump is known for is monetizing and building a personal brand. In fact, it's extraordinary. If we look at Barack Obama, even though he was one of the most popular presidents, he hasn't been able to monetize his name in the same manner that Donald Trump has. I mean, if we look at the name of Donald Trump, it's on buildings, it's on golf courses, a Bible, a sneaker, cryptocurrency. All of that comes at a premium just because his name is on it. So that's pretty impressive in itself. Just by signing his name onto something, it increases the value of whatever asset that is. So which one of these two guys made more money after their presidency? This one seems to be pretty clear and well documented that Donald Trump wins this pretty easily. I mean, $6.5 $65 billion compared to $90 million is a drastic difference. And that's what makes Donald Trump the richest US president in history. However, one thing to keep in mind is it's a nuanced history, especially since Barack Obama basically started with nothing and earned tens of millions of dollars through earned income, books, speaking, and even his media production company. So the majority of his wealth came after his presidency. And when you compare that with Donald Trump, which supposedly had close to $400 million through inheritances, gifts, and various loans from his father. So there you have it, guys. Barack Obama, $85 to $95 million in net worth, which is massive, but nothing in comparison to Donald J. Trump, $6.5 billion. What about you? Do you think it's ethical that these presidents have gained so much money after their presidency? Leave a comment below, and I'll see you on the next video.